We want to welcome back Donna Brazile. The book is called Hacks, the inside story of the break-ins and breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. How's your week been?
It's been great. It's been exciting. I've heard from friends as well as people who wanted to not only encourage me to tell my story, but they also wanted to know more about the hacking. So it's been an interesting week.
We've seen a lot of interviews. We're glad we can take a step back and spend some time to talk about the book. But I want to get your reaction from some Republicans, including Robbie Mook from the Hillary Clinton campaign. This is what he said on CNN this past week.
When the DNC approached both campaigns about a joint fundraising agreement, they were broke. They weren't going to make payroll. They were not going to be able to transfer down money to the state parties to keep them operational. They were in a really bad place. Both the Sanders campaign and the Clinton campaign signed joint fundraising agreements. So we both thought it was a good thing to sign up for. The only difference was Sanders didn't raise any money in, and we did. The DNC appealed to us.
So Sanders was raising money I mean, you guys had big money donors. Sanders was getting more donations from individuals and smaller donations. No.
Well, and that would have been great. It would have been great for the DNC to raise jointly with him. Hillary turned over her email list to the DNC after the election was over. So it's really important for those low-dollar donors to be part of the DNC process. But the DNC came to our campaign and said, we need help. We're not prepared for the general election. We created the memo of understanding that was there. It wasn't about the primary election. And as Brianna said, we were very frustrated with the DNC many times. The idea that we had any control over there is pretty laughable.
Right, but
we simply put guardrails in about how the money that we raised needed to be focused on the general election activities that were really going to matter.
Donna Brazile, your reaction to the Clinton campaign chair Robbie Mook last week on CNN.
Well, first of all, Robbie is absolutely right. The DNC was broke. Where Robbie and I disagree is that the DNC, which nominated Secretary Clinton, should have been independent. It should not have received those resources that would later be construed as the DNC tilting to one side. The fact is that Secretary Clinton won. She won the primary. She had 4 million more votes, and it's almost like a landslide when you look at the outcome of the election. But the truth is that the DNC should have been free to spend its own resources. And as I've stated in the book, which I think it's important for people in the future, those who will lead the Democratic Party, before a nominee is selected, no one should take control of any of the functions of the DNC.
You had a phone conversation with Hillary Clinton. You write about it in the book. The election was in November. She called you in February.
She called me, I'm sure, because, well, we talked about the future of the Democratic Party. She called me 3 months later. I can assume that given what had happened in the election, what was going on, Secretary Clinton had a long list of people to call, including donors, supporters, volunteers, state party leaders, and of course, members of Congress, the President of the United States, and somewhere along that list, Donna Brazile. But it's great. I still admire her. I think she is a phenomenal woman. I think the campaign that Robbie and others managed fell short. And that's why I wrote this book. I wanted to write my own postmortem. Robbie Mook and others in the Clinton campaign are free to write their postmortem. What they're not free to do is to denigrate the DNC or destroy the DNC or destroy any entity that is there to help elect Americans from across the landscape.
Well, as you know, they wrote a letter, and I want to just read part of it. We were shocked to learn the news that Donna Brazile actively considered overturning the will of the Democratic voters by attempting to replace Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine. It is particularly troubling and puzzling that she would seemingly buy into the false Russian-fueled propaganda and about our candidate's health. Donna came in to take over the DNC at a very difficult time. We were grateful for her doing so, but we do not recognize the campaign she portrays in the book. Finally, we are pretty tired of people who were not part of our campaign telling the world what it was like to be on the inside. We loved our candidate and each other and remain an honor to have been part of the effort to make Hillary Clinton the 45th president.
And I appreciate the last part of, that letter. No one worked as hard as I did. I traveled across this country to support and help elect the first female president, someone I've known for over 30 years. My book, Hacks, is about the break-ins and breakdowns that led to the election of Donald Trump. And I gave an assessment of how the Democratic Party fell short of its mission, in large part because we did not have the resources I believe we needed to win in those states that Donald Trump was able to win.
Let me share with you this headline from the New York Times, a conversation that the president had with Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
His denial of Russian interference in the elections are sincere, the president saying, I believe him.
Extremely disappointed. First of all, Mr. President, this was an attack on our country. This was an attack on our democracy, our election system. And more importantly, this was an active campaign to discredit the nominee of the Democratic Party, to destroy the Democratic National Committee, and to sow discord between ordinary citizens. The fact that we're now learning about the investment that the Russians made in our social media platforms, the fact that we're not even working to improve or be prepared in 2018 for further foreign interference, be it from Russia or from any other nation. I think the president needs to acknowledge what 17 agencies have said and what many Americans now have come to know, that Russia did interfere and meddle with our election.
Well, here's what the president said in Vietnam. We'll show that and get your reaction.
What I said there, I'm surprised that there's any conflict on this. What I said there is that I believe he believes that, and that's very important for somebody to believe. I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election. As to whether I believe it or not, I'm with our agencies, especially as currently constituted with their leadership. I believe in our intel agencies, our intelligence agencies. I've worked with them very strongly. There weren't 17, as was previously reported. There were actually 4. But they were saying there were 17, there were actually 4. But as currently led by fine people, I believe very much in our intelligence agencies. Now, at the same time, I want to be able, because I think it's very important, to get along with Russia, to get along with China, to get along with Vietnam, to get along with lots of countries, because we have a lot of things we have to solve. And frankly, Russia and China in particular can help us with the North Korea problem, which is one of our truly great problems. So I'm not looking to stand and start arguing with somebody when there's reporters all around and cameras recording and seeing our conversation. I think it was very obvious to everybody. I believe that President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election.
Donna Brazile, the president in Vietnam yesterday. He is in the Philippines this morning. Your reaction?
Well, again, I'm disappointed at the president. When we learned at the DNC, and of course we didn't learn it right away because it took time for it to, however, get to the right leadership within the party. But when we learned that there was Russian malware and spyware, that they had been in our system for well over, 10 months to a year, that they had not just stolen emails, but they also were stealing research, data, they were stealing many of our technology tools. This was confirmed not just by one agency, but this was confirmed by 17 intelligence agencies that the Russians were indeed involved in our system. I'm disappointed that the president is not taking this as seriously as it should be. When I received my briefing from a federal agency, but my first reaction, Steve, was to go straight to the Pentagon and say, why should I go back to the DNC? The DNC is under attack. And this was a cyber espionage campaign that sought, as I mentioned, to discredit and destroy our nominee, Hillary Clinton, that meddled in our election systems, that meddled with our data. It wasn't just the DNC, it was the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and I would hope that the president would listen to the intelligence agencies. Look, I concluded after I was briefed that something was going on, that they weren't just going in our email box, a trove of emails of over 100 staffers. They were looking for information that could discredit Hillary Clinton, discredit Bernie Sanders. And so in my judgment, the Russians did interfere and meddle in our election.
Our guest is Donna Brazile, the former head of the Democratic National Committee and longtime Democratic Party strategist. She ran the Al Gore campaign. Our phone lines are open. We'll get to your calls in just a moment. 2 parts from the book I want to ask you about. First, you write the following: this election broke all the rules and destroyed the tradition of civility. As a country, we ask these fundamental questions. Who are we? What do we value? Can we find a way to trust again and not just see each other as partisan enemies?
I believe one of the reasons why the Russians were successful in meddling and interfering in our election is because we're so polarized. During the time in which the hacking was occurring, I kept reaching out to my Republican counterparts. I kept saying, help us. Don't allow the spyware and the malware to destroy our party. The Democratic National Committee next year will celebrate 170 years. And I was concerned also about the Republicans. I was concerned that their database may be destroyed. And I kept warning them what we were being told about the APT 28, APT 29, known as Cozy Bear and then Fancy Bear. We found some other bears and some wolves too. But I was concerned enough about our country as an American that I warned the Republicans of what was happening to the Democrats, so that if by chance they were being attacked, the steps we were taking to get rid of these and remediate the Russian interference in our system.
And you write in the book how all of this impacted the staff of the DNC, located not just a few blocks from where we are, and also the murder of Seth Rich. How did all of that play into this?
Well, let me just say this, and I have to be very careful when I talk about Seth. Seth worked at the DNC. He was a great, loyal, dedicated staff person. He worked in the Voting Rights Division. As the vice chair for civic engagement and voter participation, Seth was one of the 2 people that worked in my area. And let me just tell you, his murder we took it seriously. We cried for days. We mourned the loss of not just our colleague, but a friend. And so Seth was murdered on July 10th. I became chair on July 24th. In between those 2 weeks, we saw emails of staff people being leaked. Those staff members came under harassment. They started getting threats. They started getting bombarded with emails from trolls and bots. We didn't know who was setting our house on fire. But at a time we were mourning the loss of a colleague, people on staff were harassed. I have to tell you this because I believe fundamentally that the staff of the DNC, they were the bravest people I will ever get to know, because I've never served in war like my father. But they were brave. They came to work each and every day despite the fact that they were getting death threats, that the building itself was getting constantly threatened. People were just protesting because they had read selective emails and leaks that were designed to sow discord and to turn the DNC against the DNC. That's what happened last year.
Let's get to your phone calls. Carol is joining us. Tyler, Texas. You're on the air with Donna Brazile. Her new book is titled Hacks. Good morning, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Yes. Good morning. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. And the first one is, what in the world would make Donna Brazile think that Hillary Clinton is not capable of answering questions during the debate? Now, I saw those questions she gave to her, and that's ridiculous. Hillary Clinton is about the smartest politician on the planet that knows answers to most all questions. And so what was her motive for that? And I'm ashamed. I used to respect her. That's over. And to be loyal, for any of the Democrats to be loyal to Bernie Sanders, he should have never even run on the Democrat ticket. He wasn't a Democrat before. He's not one now.
Carol, thank you for the call. And you write about this in the book.
Absolutely. Look, Carol, I'm sorry I disappointed you, but let me just say this. And Steve, people confuse the fact, or I should say they forget the fact, that as vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, I was under enormous pressure, like many of the other officers, to expand the number of debates and town halls, et cetera. And what I did, and I apologize for it later, because people only saw what WikiLeaks and others wanted you to see. They didn't see all of my emails. This was John Podesta's emails. What they saw was me supposedly giving Hillary questions provided by CNN. And what I've tried to tell people is that CNN did not share questions with me, period. That's it, period. But what did, in fact, occur during that time when we expanded the number of debates and town halls is that I wanted to give both candidates. In fact, when Martin O'Malley was in the race, and Martin did, he was one of the people who pressured us to get more debates, I wanted to give them heads up. First, we were about to talk about issues that people of color were concerned about. We wanted to talk about the death penalty. We wanted to talk about the Flint water crisis in Flint. That was another debate that we got expanded. And CNN was a beneficiary of many of these debates. But yes, I gave both candidates heads up that we were going to discuss topics of concern to Black Lives Matters, people of color, and others, because for the first time in the Democratic Party process, by the middle of March, we had not discussed any of these issues related to people of color, their economic circumstances, the criminal justice systems, the things that people cared about. So that's the way I operated. And you know, I also write in the book that every Saturday before I went on a Sunday show, I reached out to the Republicans. So I guess Ms. Carroll is upset with that. But I don't know the Republican Party process. I know the Democratic Party process. And so I would reach out to Sean Spicer before he became press secretary and say, Sean, what's happening on the Republican side? I reached out to Rick Tyler. What's happening with your candidate, Alice Stewart, and Anna Navarro? I reached out to everybody because I am the person that I've always been, somebody who's fair, somebody who wants to get the facts, and somebody who is willing to engage more people in the process.
Were you surprised that CNN cut their ties with you?
No, I cut the ties. I'm not surprised that they have continued to attack me, but I cut ties. And you know why I cut ties? Because I got home that night and I could not find the evidence that they were asking me to prove. And because I could not find that, because I could not find those emails, I told them, let's let it go. Let it go because I'll take it. They wanted to put out a statement that I thought that's not the way I would handle it. I have been with CNN for 14 years. I love CNN. By the way, many members of my family, some of them who were rescued, it was because CNN allowed me to use that platform to say to the American people, we got to help the people down in Louisiana. So I would hope that people would look at this show this morning and say, Donna still loves CNN. I watch CNN. Anderson is still my boo. I may not be his, boo-boo, but he's still my boo. And Don Lemon is my brother from Louisiana. But I want to go back and address one issue that you didn't give me an opportunity to address, or I should say I talked too much. Hillary Clinton, I dropped everything to become the chair of the Democratic National Committee for the second time in my adult life. I have 21 election cycles, 11 presidential, plus 21, every off season. 3 weeks ago, I was in Northern Virginia, canvassing for a candidate who became the first Asian American woman to be elected to the House delegates. I raised money for them. If Hillary called me on a Sunday and said, Donna, I need you to drop everything and go and walk the streets, I would do it. I did the same for President Obama, and I did it for everyone else. When it came time for me to answer the many people who were calling me, not just reporters, but also members of the party who were concerned about her health, it was my job as chair. The charter stipulates that. My job as chair to confer with other Democratic leaders. And all I had to do, I had to think about this. This video went viral. So the notion that I took some message from the Russians, please, I've been both hacked by the Chinese as a member of OPM staffer, and now the Russians. So I'm not trying to take talking points from anybody. In fact, I don't even take Democratic talking points. But I am trying to explain how the country was hacked and how in 2018 they might come back and try to destroy us again.
One quick follow-up with regard to CNN, because Jake Tapper was very critical of you.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
I respect Jake. I saw Jake right before Rosh Hashanah a few months ago, and I respect Jake Tapper. But I said in the book that, Jake, I'm no journalist. I am a partisan with a point of view. That is why CNN hired me, to be a partisan. And the notion that I'm going to get pressure from CNN to produce more debates in town halls, and I have all of those emails. But when my email, or my so-called email, was leaked and then put out to destroy me, which is fine. I mean, that's game. That's a game. But when CNN did the pile-on, I said, hold tight. We can explain how this process works, because I know how this process works. But it's okay, because guess what? I am a woman of faith. I have my God. I have my great friends and my family, my beautiful family, and they will stand by me, including many Democrats.
You're one of how many?
I'm the third of 9.
Back to your phone calls. Barbara, New York City, Independent Line with Donna Brazile.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Brazile. Good morning, Steve. Ms. Brazile, I called to say thank you for writing your book. We need to know what's going on and how these parties operate. So I'm very appreciative not only of your book, but also of the way you ran Al Gore's campaign. It wasn't your fault that he lost. So I'm also wondering, what do you think about Al Gore as a candidate for 2020? Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ms. Barbara, and thank you for your kind words. You know, I don't know about 2020. Right now, my focus is on the election in Alabama. I'm on my way to Alabama. I'm going to Auburn. I'm a LSU Tiger. I'm going to visit the Auburn Tigers in a few weeks. I'm also concerned about we have a race in Georgia. It's a runoff. That's one in Atlanta. And I'm going to help my friend next weekend there. So I'm going to think about 2020 and probably 2019. Right now, 2018 is really going to be a very important year for Democrats. And this is what I want to tell all Americans, not just Democrats, but all Americans. You have a right to vote. You have a right to run for office. You have a right to be engaged. You don't have to just take it from Washington or any other place. You go out there and own your power. Go out there and register to vote. Go out there and get involved and make a difference. That's what I would encourage people to do, Barbara, and not worry about one candidate. Just worry about the future of our democracy and protecting it from foreign meddling and interference in the future.
From North Carolina, Republican line, David, you're next.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to hear from somebody from North Carolina.
Hi. Let me preface what I'm saying. I think you're a Democrat hack, but I love you. I love the fact that you have come out and said that something that everybody thought. You want to get the Clintons off the playing field. And, you were the one that brought up the Willie Horton thing. And
can I answer you now, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. All right, Boo. Here's Donna 101. I wanted more than any American, probably just like Bill Clinton, just like others. I wanted to win in 2016. I wanted Hillary Clinton to be president of the United States. Had she won, I probably still would have continued my activism. I am a grassroots activist. I've been involved in politics since the age of 9. Steve mentioned Al Gore, but I've worked on a lot of presidential campaigns, senatorial, congressional campaigns, state and local campaigns. So yes, you could call me a hack, but last year the country was hacked. And that's why I selected the title of this book. I do believe, David, that whenever there's injustice in society, whenever there are people who are being harmed, whenever there are people whose rights have been trampled with, it is my job and the job of every American to stand up and to speak out and to express his or her opinions. That is something that as Americans we may disagree with, but the true nature of our country, our democracy, is civility. And I also believe, David, that we should be civil with one another. I get attacked sometimes from Democrats because I reach out to Republicans. I reach out because, you know what, if I thought the Democratic Party had all of the answers, and by the way, I think we have most of them, I would go home and say, fine, just elect Democrats. But sometimes you hear from the other side, or something you may hear and understand from the other side. And I think we should listen to one another and not just be Democrats or Republicans. We need to come back together as Americans.
Let me put, this is a pure hypothetical, but with Roy Moore's name on the ballot, and if the Republicans do put up a write-in effort for Luther Strange, what does that mean for Doug Jones in Alabama?
I would hope that Mr. Jones will continue to campaign on the issues that matter to the people of Alabama. He is talking about jobs, he's talking about education, he's talking about health care. Roy Moore is talking about, you know, what he did or did not do some 20 years ago. Roy Moore...
40 years ago.
That's correct. Roy Moore was a district attorney. He held a lot of power. These young people were probably afraid of him, scared to go up and talk about what was happening to them. He should be respectful of them. John McCain said that what he did was, if he did, it was disqualifying. I agree. If the Republicans want to put in the right in, right on. But I tell you, Doug Jones is the way I would go in Alabama.
Katrina is joining us from Castro Valley, California, Democrats Line with Donna Brazile. Her latest book, Hacks. By the way, we should point out your other book, Cooking with Grease, Stirring the Pots in American Politics.
Well, see, I have a history of stirring things up. You know, my nickname I also put in the book is Trouble. I got that nickname from Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, and I try to live up to it.
Katrina, you are next. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Steve and Ms. Brazile.
Thank you.
I have to say it is a thrill and an honor to speak with you. I'm so excited. I'm going to try to not get goofy here. And first of all, I'd like to say congratulations on your book.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope you read it. It's a great book. It reads fast.
I want to know if you're going to come to Oakland or San Francisco for a book signing, so you could sign it for me and maybe take a quick photo with me.
I was in San Francisco just this past. I was there on Thursday night at the Commonwealth Club. I look forward to coming to Oakland. Barbara Lee is a great friend, and I know a lot of people in Northern California. I would love to come back.
You're welcome anytime, day or night, 24/7.
I appreciate you.
I think you did a great job on the campaign. I watched the whole thing. I was on it like a laser. Let me just sum up what I think about the election.
Okay.
Since 2015, we've known what's gone on. Okay, it wasn't a fair election, and I think we should redo it. Right? Isn't that what kids do when it's not a fair? It's not a fair. Wasn't fair. Both sides didn't play fair.
Well, thank you so much, and I want to just say this. I would hope that we take some lessons from 2016, and that is, as Americans, whenever we hear the word hacks, we should take notice that someone is trying to interfere, someone is trying to influence us. One of the characters I mentioned in the book, he called me just about every day to give me an idea of what the active measures would be to destabilize our democracy, destabilize and call into question our election. And that's why I believe the onus is also on the president. He needs to acknowledge what happened last year. He needs to convene a bipartisan commission to study ways in which we can protect our country in the future. I've seen that happen in Germany with their election, in France with their election, recently in Austria and so many other countries, the Netherlands. We need to take a page from our own book from 2016 and strengthen our democracy.
Chapter 12, I am not Patsy the slave. Explain.
Well, I believe that when Donald Trump said, "What the hell you have to lose?" that was my wake-up call, that this was going to be a very close election. When he said that, I wanted to do more than just write a column, which I did. I wanted to fight back. I tried to hire people, and in some cases, not even hire them. They were wanted to come and work for free. And Brooklyn refused. I had to get on a conference call with Brooklyn. I call them Brooklyn. The high command of Brooklyn was my way of saying that I would call up to talk to Robbie Mook, or go through the intermediaries between me and Robbie Mook, and say, I need to bring on people who could help me expand the vote. I was very worried that the Obama coalition did not get enough attention. And that's why I say I'm not Patsy the slave. Patsy, and you know, the analogy here is that as a woman, I wanted to make my own decisions. I did not want someone in the headquarters in Brooklyn making decisions of how the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, which nominated Hillary. I did not work for Hillary. I did not work for the campaign. I was a volunteer for the DNC, and my obligations were not only to the officers of the Democratic National Committee, but my obligation was to the rank and file and those donors and supporters.
On the Republican line, David is next. Watertown, South Dakota. Good morning.
Wow, David.
Yeah, good morning. It's been very interesting listening to you. I think you should run under the Democratic ticket. You impressed me more than any other Democrat I've heard. But I agree that the Russians meddled with our election, just like the United States has meddled with every election in every country in the world for years. But I don't think the Russians tried to elect Trump when they already had their hooks into Mrs. Clinton. And, you know, when you claim that other countries meddle in elections, Obama actively campaigned for one of the candidates in the British election, and he did everything he could to defeat Netanyahu. It's just the way the world politics are. But you have really impressed me, and if you run for president as a Democrat, you would be the first Democrat I've ever voted for. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, David, and thank you for your kind words. I love the people of South Dakota. Let me just say this. My mother taught us that two wrongs don't make a right. I've heard that argument as well, that, you know, the United States have meddled in elections. Perhaps so, and I know of some occasions that I've read that and witnessed that. But I am referring to our democracy, our country, that we came under attack in 2016. Look, in 2008, when the Chinese tried to hack into both McCain and President Obama's campaign, the Justice Department went to those officials and said, here's what's happening. In our case, it was delayed for months, in large part because we had a contractor who were maintaining our system and we didn't know. But once we started taking remediation, we did the very best job of trying to remove them so that they would not interfere and meddle. We've seen now with the social media campaign, and we've heard from others how much the Russians were actively engaged in sowing discord and creating distrust. And yes, they tried to destroy Secretary Clinton. They wanted to destroy her credibility. They wanted to destroy her political party, her platform, everything. And one way they sought to do it was to sow discord between the Sanders campaign and the Clinton campaign. And that's why I said, when I found the cancer, I wanted to get rid of it because I didn't want to have any any excuse out there why Secretary Clinton wasn't running a strong campaign to win the presidency.
I want to come back to the book in a moment, Donna Brazile, but the 9th Ward in Louisiana, what's it like today?
First of all, we're mourning the loss of Fats Domino's. Let's, Blueberry Hill. I love that man. I love Fats Domino. It's hard for me.
You can sing the song if you want.
I know. I walk into New Orleans. I mean, as a little kid, my Aunt Adele lived in the 9th Ward, and we used to go by Fats Domino house because you can see over the fence and his pink piano. I mean, he was such a good guy that he would come outside and give us candy. When I think of the 9th Ward, I think of Fats Domino's. I think of the music, the rhythm. It's coming back. With any hurricane, it takes a while for the recovery efforts to begin. I served on the Louisiana Recovery Authority under Governor Kathleen Blanco. We wanted to rebuild stronger and safer, not just our levees, but also to lift the houses up above ground so that people will have a chance to survive any storms. I want to say something about Houston. I've been to Texas twice. I want to say something about Puerto Rico. I haven't been back to Puerto Rico, but we have to help those people. They are our citizens. It will take time for them to rebuild their lives, to rebuild their homes, and to get back into their communities. As Americans, we're going to invest in making those places safer and stronger, but we should not forget them because it takes a while for you to come back from a storm. Louisiana is back. Next year, we're celebrating our 300th anniversary. I'm on the Tricentennial Committee. We're excited about the future of Louisiana. We're excited about what's happening in our state under John Bell Edwards, and I am proud to call Louisiana my home, and I love my mayor, Mitch Landrieu. This is his last year in office, and I just want to say to him, thank you for your service. He has been an incredible voice of change in the great city of New Orleans.
Our guest is Donna Brazile. The book is titled Hacks, and Malcolm, you're next from McMinnville, Tennessee, Democrats line.
Wow.
Malcolm, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, Malcolm, you're on the air.
Tennessee. Woo.
Okay, I got a question for Donna. Knowing what you know, would you suggest a special counsel to check into Hillary's stuff?
No, sir. Let me just say this. Knowing what I know, what they did was legal. You can set up a joint fundraising agreement. You can have a memorandum of understanding between one staff to another staff. You can file your own FEC reports. There's nothing illegal about what occurred. It was, in my judgment, I did not like it because, and unethical because I couldn't do my job as chair. I had to get permission, sometimes permissions to even write a press release. I was told what I could and could not say, and so sometimes I didn't say anything. So no, I think Secretary Clinton ran a very, as far as I can tell, they ran a vibrant campaign. After all, they got 3 million more votes than the present occupant. I laugh and tell people, Steve, that every time the winner of the Electoral College loses the popular vote, Donna goes to Harvard. I've been up at the Kennedy School, the Schoenstein Center for Media Politics and Policy, and one of the things I'm focusing on is how do we prevent the hacking of our election again? I mean, this book is not just about the Clintons and the Clinton campaign. This book is about our democracy and how do we protect it. I also have some common sense solutions on how every American should protect their own identity, how they should have two-step verification on their phone systems. I mean, you're out there yakking and Instagramming everybody and Snapchatting away, and you're not protecting yourself with a two-step verification process. Change your passwords, change it often. I mean, so I get a little technical in the book because the Hacker House, those wonderful Americans who came to our rescue, I talk about their service to our country. They were able to help us fight the Russian meddling, but it was tough throughout the entire process.
Start to finish, how long did it take for you to write the book?
I had help. I had help by a remarkable woman, a writer, Danielle Martin. She put a tape recorder in front of me, and boy, was that cathartic to relive the campaign. It took 9 weeks. I was under a tight deadline, and I waited. People kept asking me about the timing. I assumed that someone in the Clinton campaign, I begged Robbie to come to our future forums. I assumed that they would indeed write the postmortem. And when I didn't see a postmortem on the hacking, plus a postmortem on what was going on internally in the DNC, I decided to write this book.
Did you read What Happened by Hillary Clinton?
Absolutely. And let me tell you, it was a good read. I hope she'll sign my book one day. I mean, she'll sign her book, and I'll sign my book to her. It was a great book. It was historical, it was biographical, but also, I thought she also gave us some great, strong recommendations on how to treat women in the future, especially women candidates. And that's another reason why I'm so delighted that so many women are thinking about running for office next year. It's a great book.
The subtitle is The Inside Story of the Break-ins and Breakdowns That Put Donald Trump in the White House. And from the book, you write the following. The 2016 campaign, the convention, the election had shattered long-standing relationships, leaving old friends wary of one another. This is more than the burnout and dejection that follows a crushing loss. The Russian dirty cyber tricks that were still coming to light had left everyone scared and scarred.
Yeah. Oh, God. It was... Steve, I've been involved in a lot of campaigns. I managed Al Gore's campaign down in the beautiful city of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been called a lot of things. I've been attacked many times working in politics, personally attacked. I've apologized for attacking others, everything you can name. But when you have a foreign government actively seeking to destroy and discredit your candidate, actively seeking to destroy your political party, actively seeking to weaken your democratic institutions, which includes the media, oh yeah, it wasn't nice. I mean, they influenced our campaign. The journalists out there, and I want to caution them once again, the journalists took every leak as if it was the gospel truth, as if it came from the book of Joshua or it came down from the mountain. They never questioned it. They used it every day to further sow discord into our election, to further weaken Secretary Clinton, to further weaken, and it led to the harassment of individuals within the Democratic Party, donors, ordinary citizens who had their information on our website because they saw the White House tour. All of a sudden, their information was out in the public. And so I believe that this was a crisis moment for our country. And yet on November 9th, the day after the election, everybody gets into party mode for Donald Trump. And on the Clinton side and the Democrats, we're all mourning. And nobody's thinking about our democracy. That's what scared me.
You called Anderson Cooper a boo.
My boo. Yeah, that's an affectionate term from a Southerner.
How many do you have?
Several. I got hundreds of boos. And but I have to tell you, my book is also dedicated to my booty wife. That was my doggy, Chippy Gumdrop, my Pomeranian. I miss Boo Boo. Boo Boo was... Chip was not just a dog, but he was a dog of all dogs. I used to say that Chip was a cross between Luther Vandross and George Clooney. He had Luther Vandross' voice and George Clooney's look. I mean that's what I think George would look like if he was a dog. But I'm not calling him a dog because he's one of my favorite actors, along with Denzel Washington.
Where was this picture taken back in 2015?
That was taken on Capitol Hill, and as you can tell, I had on some CNN makeup, but that's my pootie wipe. Look how happy. Chip loved to watch Anderson Cooper. I know he loves Rachel Maddow. He had favorites, and trust me, there were some people when I put them on, Chip was like, mommy, and he would go to sleep. I talked to my dog. I did. I had a loving relationship with my animal, and I can't wait to meet Chip again. Chip was just a beautiful dog. I miss him very much.
We're going to go to, I'm just laughing at, we'll go to Carrie in Homestead, Florida with Donna Brazile. Good morning.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, good morning, Miss Trouble Woman. But
I bet you've known a lot of women that cause trouble. I bet you've known some women that stirred the pots. I bet you have no problem getting in trouble with the right kind of woman. That's who I am.
Hold on now. I'm not trying to compliment anything, but listen, it takes bravery, a real courage to do what you're doing. You know, to come on a C-SPAN. And I love the guys at C-SPAN. They do great work. You know, I give them all your applause, man. They're just wonderful. But it shows courage for you to come on this TV and say what you're saying.
Well, thank you,
Carrie. Response?
Well, it took courage for Esther in the Bible to go to the king and say, if I perish, I perish, but I'm going to save my people. It took courage for Harriet Tubman to go back and forth to get people out of bondage. It took courage for what Nelson Mandela did, what Dr. King did. It took courage for what Mother Teresa. It's about the courage of your convictions. And if you believe that something is unjust, you should speak out. But more importantly, if you believe in freedom and equality of all people and support diversity and inclusion, you speak up. Let me tell you, I was telling my colleagues and students up at Harvard last week, I said, if you think this got me in trouble, imagine being a student at LSU in the late 70s and you're calling for a holiday for Dr. King, which I later worked on, or you're calling for the freedom of Nelson Mandela, which I later worked on. I mean, that got me in trouble. I've been in trouble all my life, but I've been in good trouble. There's good trouble. I'm good trouble.
We'll go to Mark, joining us from St. Paul, Minnesota, Republican line. You are on the air with Donna Brazile.
Thank you. I have three brief but related questions. Number one, Ms. Brazile, you indicate in your book that you closed the blinds to your office because you were afraid of sniper fire. I guess I'm wondering, who exactly did you think would be shooting at you, and would it be a foreign power or a domestic power, such as maybe the Clinton machine? Number two, there's a theory that Seth Rich was the hacker or the person who leaked the hacked emails. I'm wondering what your thoughts would be with regard to that allegation. And number three, I'm wondering if you have any theories with regard to who might have killed Seth Rich. Thank you.
Let me just say this, sir. When I got back to the DNC headquarters after the briefing, I mentioned in the book how scared I was. I wanted to go to the Pentagon. I didn't want to go back to the DNC. I wanted the DNC to be closed down with yellow tape around it. And later in the book, I also described how we got word that the DNC might have to close its office, and I looked for an alternative office. So this was not the ordinary kind of campaign where people just call you and say one or two bad things, but this is a campaign where you got suspicious packages, you got all kinds of threats. You're getting incoming from everywhere, and you're trying to do your very best, as I did, to protect the staff and infrastructure at the DNC. We made some important security changes to our office space, our physical office space, our security, so people just couldn't walk in off the streets. We did a lot of prudent steps that I believe helped to save us. Now, you know, I get really touchy about Seth Rich because, as I mentioned earlier, he's a patriot, he was a loyal member of the Democratic National Committee, and that he worked faithfully to honor part of who we are, and that is the right of every American to participate in the election process. And he helped to create, along with many, many others, iwillvote.com, which provided valuable resources to those who did not know where their polling center or if they were registered to vote or wanted to get more information about the candidates. With regards to these conspiracy about Seth Rich, they are baloney. And we owe it to his parents, Joel and Mary, who I know very well. I spoke at his synagogue. I know exactly who Seth Rich was to the DNC. He was part of our team. And I can tell you that Seth Rich should be honored for being a great American, somebody who cared to make a difference. And all of these conspiracy theories, honor his parents' wishes. Drop it. Let us find the person or the individuals who murdered Seth Rich, but let us stop destroying his good name. He was a friend. He was my kid. You can ask the governor of Washington State. I was out there with Jay Inslee and his wife Trudy. Upon learning, Anna Navarro and I were together. Upon learning of Seth murder, I had to call into the DNC office to comfort people, to comfort my colleagues. But then I had to cry myself. I couldn't stop crying because Seth was one of my kids. And when you hurt somebody that you love, when somebody you love is hurt, you stand up for them. And while I wasn't his mother or father, Joel and Mary, I know them. I've had plenty of time with them. They are great people. They are still suffering, along with his brother Aaron. And they deserve one day where we honor their child and not try to destroy his name.
As you know, the Fox News Channel and Sean Hannity in particular did a series of programs on Seth Rich.
It was wrong.
A lot of questions.
Wrong. Look, we should answer. I've seen the police report. We should answer. We should find out. And I know the Metropolitan Police Department continues. This is an active case. There's a reward for anyone who knows anything about Seth's murder. But let us not, what I call, tarnish his name. Seth was a great person. And the lies that are being told, sometimes I'm like, where did this come from? I mean, the lies. Seth worked. He was honorable. And there was nothing found on his computers. The stuff I have read, I'm like, where are they getting the information from? The first person I wanted to protect when I walked into that building, when I came back into that building, was Seth Rich. He was a great man, great young man. I wish we had more like Seth Rich. More young people who are willing to go out there and work for democracy. He wanted to see Hillary Clinton in the White House as well. So God bless you, Seth. God bless you.
Our last call is from Missouri, Democrats line. Benton, go ahead, please.
Hey, Donna. It's good to talk with you. I just have a few questions about the timing of the book, and this may seem to Democrats like it's a way for you to make money off this book at a time when it's like beating a dead horse after this election. It's just a tough time for Democrats. So I feel like, are you trying to work with Democrats to come up with solutions for last election that, came up with these results as far as, long lines at polls and the voter turnout and herding everyone towards one candidate, such as Hillary Clinton? There was no opposition to her, and the Democrats, distance it takes to get to polls, reduction of early voting, things like that, voter suppression by law.
Thank you, Benton. We'll get a response.
Well, first of all, thank you for your great question. I think the best time to talk about the previous election is when we're 1 year out, when it's still fresh in our memories. This is about, trying to ensure that we have a stronger political party in the future, as well as a stronger democracy that can withstand the kind of foreign interference and attacks. So I would hope that many of my friends and colleagues who have not enjoyed my quote-unquote timing would understand that this was about trying to heal wounds, not open wounds, but to heal them. We have to properly heal. The only way to heal something that's been infected is to address it and address all of it. So this is just Donna Brazile version. Hillary has written a book. Bernie has written a book. Joe Biden book is coming out soon. There are so many other books that will talk about the 2016 campaign. I hope when the reader finish my book, they'll see that not only am I still out there trying to help the Democratic Party, but I want to help the country become stronger, to become more actively engaged in protecting our democracy. And yes, sir, I agree with you. We have to ensure that there are no blocks or hurdles or obstacles to any American, participating in the right to vote. Voting is the lifeblood of our democracy. And thank you for your time, and thank you for your great questions as well.
The book is titled Hacks, the Inside Story of the Break-Ins and Breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. Donna Brazile, what's next for you?
I'm still at Harvard. My report is due soon. It's about strengthening our democracy in the future. I'm looking forward to going back to Georgetown next semester. I got a lot on my plate, as always. But the most important thing I try to do each and every day of my life is to think about all of the young people like myself who got involved in politics at an early age. I want to help them get a seat at the table, even if we have to bring in some folding chairs.
Donna Brazile, always a pleasure to have you here. Please come back again.
Oh, I will. Love it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll turn our attention to Republican Party politics. Craig Shirley, his latest book, Citizen Newt, on Newt Gingrich and that GOP tax bill that's moving through the House and the Senate. You're watching and listening. C-SPAN's Washington Journal on this Sunday morning. We're back in a moment.